Hello.
Hello,
How you
how
doing?
are you? Good.
I'm good. I can't see you.
I'm just trying to get my thing to flip because it's not.
Oh, you flipped the camera.
Oh, there we go. See, I'm
Hello.
gonna
How
flip it. Now you
you
can
doing?
see
You
me
all right?
in the thing.
I can see you.
There we
There you
go.
are. Hey, that's so welcome. Yeah. Everybody. Listen. Now, do you prefer Elizabeth or Lizzie? What do you prefer?
Look, I answer to a lot of things. So everything from Elizabeth through to Lizard. That's what my dad used to call me. So
What do you prefer, though, Liz? Do you prefer Lizzie or Elizabeth? What do you prefer?
Liz or Elizabeth is usually what I go by
Liz.
these days.
Liz, if you're happy, I'll call
Yeah.
you Liz. Just waiting for some more people to come in. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward. What time is it in Australia?
It is 10 to 8 in Australia. So I was running
So
a
you're
little
on.
bit late because
Don't worry.
sorry.
Don't worry if you're running
Well,
late. Oh, there's no
I
rush.
had to stop to get this amazing sunset on the way home. So I was on the side of the road capturing all this sunset. When I thought, oh, I better check just on TikTok and check my messages just in case. So thankfully
Right?
I did, and I was only
I,
10 minutes down the road. So
yeah, I can't blame you for stopping for a sunset. That's beautiful energy. So who wouldn't stop for a sunset? The
exactly.
energy from that, mate. I can't blame you for that. Just waiting for a few more people to come in and we get started. And we're gonna. I've dug deep into your TikToks, so we're gonna go through your whole spiritual journey, and it's gonna be really good. And we did one last night with a lady called Lauren. That was episode 3. So you're episode 4 of my spiritual journey. And all the people that come and watch it on live or you're live, if they want to jump over to me, because at the end if you're happy to do a Q&A at the end, a question and
Yeah,
answer, is
yeah,
that
sure.
okay for you? But obviously
Yeah,
I've told the guys this is not a reading, this is just questions. So no questions
yeah,
about what can you read. It's just questions for you. And then we do something called the top 10 of I do's and I don'ts. So it's 10 things that you do believe, you don't believe. If you don't
yeah.
believe, I'm going to ask you why you don't believe them. That's fine. And we go there. So
Sounds
we've done
good.
a few lately. We've done 3 or 4 of these now. And it's really just about everybody here. Hello, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Look, Lizzie's here with us from Australia. Aren't we lucky? So it is like a spiritual journey, but coffee morning as well, because I'm on coffee this morning. As you can
I'm on
see,
tea in the evening,
what's
so
the Eugene? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hello, they're all coming in now. This is good. Yeah. So we'll give another
it's
few more minutes.
I'm on a fruit tea tonight, so it's because I've had a few coffees today. Because what I do when I finish work, where I work for my parents, and it's in the Adelaide
Okay.
Hills, so it's just around the corner from the forest. So I go for a
Yeah.
hike in the forest after I finish work. So I've had a lot of coffee to keep me awake, so I'm like up and at 'em. And
I
I
bet.
have to warn you, I have a bad problem of just talking. So if I'm talking too much, just stop me.
No, I won't stop you. Oh no, you talk away. Um, yeah, I love coffee as well. So you're a bit of a forest bather like me. Then you like a bit of forest bathing. I call it
I
forest
love
bathing.
the forest. Yeah,
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 I'm doing
absolutely love
I'm doing a I'm doing a diploma at the minute in Shinyu, which is forest bathing, Japanese for forest bathing, because there's so
it. Yeah,
many good things about health-wise for forest bathing, and there's a lot of studies done in Japan about how it improves depression, hypertension, blood pressure, and in Japan have done many studies. So I'm doing a diploma in that at the minute. So hopefully in the summer in England, I can take people out to the forest and do meditations with them in the forest to absorb all that
yeah.
energy from that beings of knowledge and things. See, somebody's already said to me this morning, can I have a reading? I'm not doing readings, I'm doing my spiritual journey with Lizzie, episode 4. She's done the blessings coming. She's in Australia, hence why we're having coffee morning really as well. And we're going to dig down into her spiritual journey and find out, and hopefully we're going to learn something because I love to learn. This universe is a big place and there's lots of things to learn in it. I know you guys will as well. So we'll give it a couple more minutes, Lizzie, if that's all right with you. And we're so where do you live in Australia?
So I'm in South Australia. So
Okay.
we're right. We seem to always be one of the forgotten states because whenever people think of Australia, they think of Melbourne and Sydney and Queensland.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're down the bottom. So, and I mean, I'm a little bit biased. I did live in Queensland for 3 years. So I've had a bit of experience, but I personally think South Australia is the best place to live. But,
And why wouldn't you?
I was born
Why
here,
wouldn't
so
you?
exactly. But
It's yeah,
yeah,
and
no,
how is
it's
it? What's it like to live in Austin? Before we get to your spiritual journey, do you have any bushfires around your area? Is that always a constant worry where
Yeah.
you? It is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm at the foothills of I'm in like the suburbs of the very base of the Adelaide Hills. My parents live in the Adelaide Hills, and we get bushfires come through all the time. So
Really.
the last ones that came through that all of you guys would have seen all over the news and everything from last year, that was all right around where my parents were. So right in the pretty much a couple of streets back from where their house was. That's where we had a lot of
Yeah.
the
It
bushfires.
is.
So
That
yeah.
close. That's quite scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a way of life. You just kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sad as well, because you drive
Yeah.
past and you see all of the destruction and everything, but you also see the regeneration as well. So
Yeah, which is interesting, isn't it? The nature is a
mm,
funny thing, how it can just regenerate itself
yeah.
like that and carry on. Got to look after the planet. So there's more people coming in now. Good morning, everybody. Everybody's hello from somebody from Australia here. Come over. 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go. Hello from Australia. You know, we're with Lizzie. About to her my spiritual journey. Who else is coming? Hello, Jane. Oh yeah. So guys, on Monday night at 8 p.m. there's my spiritual journey 5. We got to 5, which is a blessing, just to say that. And we got a paranormal investigator coming on called Janie Woo Woo on here, I think her name is.
Ooh.
So Monday we've got a paranormal investigator, very different because we've had the spiritualists, we've had lots of people with tarot and oracle cards come on, which is great because everybody works differently and we don't judge anybody on my TikTok because it's one big spiritual TikTok family. Yeah, so Monday at 8, I put it up on my TikTok, a paranormal investigator. So that's going to be completely different to see, get their perspective on all things supernatural, all things spiritual, and see what they think as well. So sounds great. Thank you, Bohemian Goddess. Yeah, welcome. So we've got Lizzie with us. We're about to start in about 2 more minutes, and we're going to drill down into her spiritual journey and ask her some questions. No bad questions, Lizzie. It's all good. There's no trick questions or anything like that at all. There's no negativity. It's just about what you believe and what your beliefs are, because yours might be different to somebody else. And I respect everybody's beliefs because who am I to judge? As long as you do what makes you happy, and it's not, and we are all safe. Not as we're not hurting anybody, and that's what we don't do in this realm of spiritual TikTok. We only do good things to help people. We really do. So let's have a look. Who we got in? Good morning, everybody. It's Just Debs. Hello, hello, Mystic Dragon. Hello. Who's coming in? Yeah. How many have you got your side? Is there many your side?
You know what? Don't ask me these questions. This is the first time I've gone live, so I don't even
Is it
understand
really?
what I'm looking at.
Well, last night on the live, my production of my spiritual journey is 0. There's about 0 finance. This fell down halfway through last night. So
Oh, really?
the production went really well. Yeah, the budget's a really big spend on my spiritual journey. Like this is your first ever live. Oh, bless
Yeah, well,
you.
I only ticked over to the 1,000 people over the weekend just gone. So
Really? Oh,
because I've
wow.
been using TikTok for this will be my 4th week now. I'm really big on I do YouTube and Instagram and things like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, TikTok, I only just recently started. I've actually fallen in love with the platform. It's very addictive. So
You're not
but
alone
yeah,
on that.
so
It is very addictive.
it
Yeah.
is.
Okay, guys.
But yeah,
So I've
my
got,
focus is mostly in YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. That's where I put
okay.
most of my stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very different to what I do on TikTok as well. TikTok, I've kind of done more of that love-based stuff for the time being
Yeah.
because I don't do love anywhere else.
Yeah.
Whereas YouTube, I do astrology and in-depth tarot readings, like pick a card, full moon, new moon readings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram is where my daily readings will go as well, and blog posts
Okay.
and things like that. So yeah.
Cool. So if you look at the top of your screen, has there a number at the top to say how many people in your life? Do you see like loads of faces? You see loads of faces at the top of the screen?
Oh, I think it just says 1. I'm
Oh, that's
thinking.
okay. We got you. Right. Okay. So let's get started. Welcome, everybody. It's what time is it? 9:30 in the morning. It's not. It's an early one, so some of you may not be up. If you do miss this, I put it on my YouTube channel, Reiki Tree, so you can catch up. The quality is not as good as it should be because it is a TikTok live, so you expect it. So, my spiritual journey, episode 4, with lovely Elizabeth, or Lizzie as she likes to be known, and a TikTok thing is Awakening by Elizabeth Marie, correct?
That's it.
Awakening, but yeah, that's right. So please go over and give her a follow. That'd be lovely because we're here to learn things. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's go back. So, Lizzie,
Yeah.
let's talk about your family first of all. Is there in your heritage or your lineage, is there anybody who has had a spiritual pathway before you in your family? Is there any sort of grandmas, grannies, or any history you know about anything spiritual in your family before you?
hmm So I was probably someone who was quite lucky because my family doesn't necessarily have the same beliefs as I do, but they
Yeah.
do. They were the ones who introduced me to this kind of world. So, for example, my grandmother sort of experimented with different religions. She was very open to that, but also
Mm-hmm.
experimented with things like Ouija boards and that kind of stuff. My mum did massage therapy, aromatherapy, all of that kind of thing. So I was introduced to that. And then when I was probably about, I'd say, 12 years old, my aunts introduced me to witchcraft. So I've had
Okay.
quite a broad upbringing with that kind of stuff, and a lot of paranormal things and experienced in the family as well. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
been quite lucky.
So would you class your aunties are into so would you class if you had a religion, are you a Wicca? Is your religion Wicca, would you say? Because I say and some
I
of the things you say green witch, you say you're a green
Yeah,
witch, which is fantastic. I'll ask you to
yes.
explain that a bit more in a minute. But would you class Wicca as your religion, or is it just you follow witchcraft or Wicca, but it's not really your religion in all aspects of everything you do?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I did identify with Wicca and following deeply into that path because that was just
Yeah.
what called to me at that time. As I grew older, say that I identify as a green witch, mostly because I don't like the complete, I wouldn't say strict is the wrong word, but that complete in-depth aspect of Wicca, it just doesn't sit quite right. It's my underlying practice and belief system, but I I mean, I identify as an eclectic green witch as well because I bring in
Okay.
things from all over the place, and I'm an
That's
eternal
interesting.
student, so I love to research and learn new things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't, and it's always evolving. I mean, what I say now is might be different in 20 years' time as well. So
Yeah.
I never really say I identify with just one particular overreaching banner,
Yeah.
if that makes
That's quite
sense.
interesting. Okay, so let's rewind and go back to when you were younger as a child.
Mhm.
What's your first memory of something happening to you, supernatural or intuitive? What's your first memory of that? Do you remember something that happened to you? Because have you always
Mhm.
felt you've had this in you? So what's your first memory? What was the first thing you remember intuitively or paranormal? What was the first thing?
My very first memory is one that's um, kind of stuck with me because I was so young. I was like maybe 2, 3 years old. And it's just this memory that is stuck with me. It sounds crazy when you talk about it because I don't know if it's a dream or if it's a memory, like, because it's such an out of this world kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I remember being outside and playing outside. And when I looked up into the sky, there was all these different kinds of flying things. So, like, everything from airplanes to blimps to space things,
Mm.
all pointed down into our particular yard, like pointing down at me. And it freaked me out. And I went running inside and hid behind the fridge. So it's a memory that is stuck with me. Whether or not it was a dream that I had, I don't know, but it's stuck with me for my entire life. Um,
That's
and
interesting. That really is.
yeah, I kind of want to
Yeah.
go just a little bit further past that
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Please do. Yeah.
my family,
Please
well,
go
my
further.
mum and my biological father, when my mum was pregnant with me, she had a dream that they were going to call me, I think, Heather or something like that. That's what my name was originally going to be. And they both had a dream in the same week with me telling them that my name was Elizabeth. And they both said, well, obviously that's her name. And the day that they brought me home from the hospital, underneath the carport, there was this glowing green light. Mum said, and they opened it up and there was nothing there. She said it's the weirdest feeling she's ever had, that it was just this paranormal experience. And it was the day that they brought me home from the hospital. So it's, yeah.
That is so strange. For two people to have the same dream, and for you to be told. Okay, I'm going to ask you about past life regression in a bit. So what we're going to do
Mhm.
from that age of from 2 years old and moving your first paranormal experience that you couldn't explain. Moving forward, so have you always felt that you've been intuitive? Like with me, I've always get static electricity in my fingers. I said to people, I go to private, I can't touch anything metal because I get shocks all the time. And I've always always had this this deep interest in anything paranormal, supernatural. Like you, I had to learn about Wicca, things like that. I had to learn all about it or find my pathway. So moving on forward to your teen years, maybe. When was the first time you picked? So did you start with tarot? Did you start with tarot cards? So do you remember when you first picked up a tarot deck? And what? And how did you get to that point?
So I always knew I was intuitive because as a young child, I did see spirits quite often. I don't see them as much now because I blocked that side off. When I went through a stage when in my younger years where I just completely turned away from anything spiritual. Like it was kind of there, but I didn't focus on it. So I kind of blocked that aspect off because that's just what you do. You go through those phases. And then I moved out of home at 16, and I didn't just move, a few houses away. I moved 2 states away and did the naughty kid thing. And it was actually up there that I started getting back in tune with a little bit of my spiritual self. I went through that phase for a few months of just being crazy because you had that freedom and that kind of energy. But then I discovered once I started settling down and started working, I discovered a spiritual store, and I just spent all my time there. I was always going in there. There was a tarot reader there. He was an absolutely beautiful guy, lovely man, gentle energy. I had a few readings with him, and that was where I picked up my very first tarot deck, and I was 16 at that age. So
16.
Yeah.
It's unusual. The lady last night, Lauren, she picked up her first tarot deck at 16. So when you picked up your first tarot deck and you opened it up and you looked at the cards, what was your method to learn how to read tarot? How did you start doing that?
Well, I can show you the deck because it's sitting right here.
Because I'm about to say to everybody, Lizzie has got the biggest amount of, I'm going to ask you how many in a minute, the biggest amount of oracle cards I've ever seen in my life. It's like an eternal library of oracle cards. I'm going to ask you how many in a minute. But please show us I know. I saw your TikTok. I was like, oh my god. So let's have a look. This is your first deck.
So this is my first deck. It's the traditional one as well, the Rider-Waite deck, the Radiant version. And I picked up a book, which is on my bookshelf, and I had this and that, and I went into this mode of, because I love to study as well. I love to learn things. I love to read. So I was like, okay, I need to analyze the meanings of all of these cards, and went so deep into, it has to be this particular meaning. And it just never sat right. So I just kind of put it down after that because I just couldn't get the meanings. I didn't agree with the meanings, but it was that rigid energy of it has to mean this. And I didn't really like the traditional symbolism that's in the traditional tarot, because it just I don't know, like you look at things like, for example, the Devil card or the Death card, and they're seen as very negative energies, and it just never sat right with me. So it's actually quite a tortured deck.
Could you show us some of the cards? Would you be able to show? Would you be able to show us a couple of the cards?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, because this is your first deck.
I think the cards, like I must have spilt something on them. I didn't look after these cards at all. But they're like quite old and faded, and like there's some that have got stains on them. Sorry?
Oh, look at those. I said, which is nice to have them old and faded, because it's your very first deck. It's always a special one to have, isn't it? Look at those, Look.
I think,
well, know.
I reckon it might have actually been essential oils or something by the looks of it. I mean, this deck has come with, I'm 31 this year, and I've moved like 30 times, and this deck has moved with me half those times, so it's traveled a lot.
You've got a connection to it.
I actually do use it now.
Oh yeah, so here's a question for you. I'm going to ask you this question now before we move on. Some people believe, and this is not my belief, but some people believe that tarot cards are a gateway for negative forces, What's your
hmm
feelings on that? I have to ask you that question because it comes up a lot and people go, oh, tarot cards, they're a gateway. That's somebody else's belief. Yours is going to be different. So what's your belief? Do you believe that or not?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm going to say no because I work with it all the time. But the way
Yeah,
I
yeah,
sort of look at it is, it's almost like saying picking up a cigarette is a gateway to doing drugs, or
yeah,
having caffeine is a gateway to having more stimulants, things like that, because
yeah.
it
Okay.
depends on the person ultimately. Because yes, someone who wants to work with darker energies might pick up a
Yeah,
tarot deck and enjoy that and go down that path, and then you can have someone go down the other
yeah,
aspect as well. But I don't see things as inherently dark. I don't believe in evil per se. Like, I know there's evil deeds, but I don't believe
yeah,
in that kind of heavy energy.
yeah.
So
So
yeah.
obviously, so you've got your first tarot deck card. You've learned everything you tried to. Do you remember your first reading? And you don't have to go into detail, but do you remember your first reading? What was it like using that deck?
So all my original readings were always for myself, and
Okay.
I was 16, moving out of, had lived out of home. I was in a long-term relationship, trying to live that adult life and just not feeling very fulfilled. And when I reflect
Yeah.
back on it, all of the readings that I did for myself reflected on that, but I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it because I didn't trust my intuition with reading cards or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I ended up moving into oracle decks for quite a while. I
Okay.
started getting different oracle decks, and the one of the
I'm
first
smiling
oracle
because yeah. What's your? I'm
decks
smiling because I'm about to ask you the question. So that's what's that? So what's that? What does it say on the
that's
front? Because it's back. It's a
it's the
druid one. It's a druid one.
Druid Plant Oracle. Is one of my very first oracle decks that I ever got, and I
Okay.
started working with that, and it actually helped me open up to trusting my intuition with interpreting the cards, and then I
Yeah.
started getting more confident. But I lived a very reclusive life. Even though I lived out of home with a partner, I lived a very reclusive life until I moved back to South Australia, which was, I think I was about
Yeah.
19 when I came back. And my first reading that I did for someone else wasn't until I was about 21, and it was for my
Wow.
auntie. With a very
Yeah.
different tarot deck. I got another tarot deck, which I actually would highly recommend to anyone who's wanting to learn it, because it helped me to see the
Have you
symbols
got
and the
it there
meanings
at
in
all?
a very different way. Yeah, I do. I'll just grab it.
Thank you.
I think they've actually redone it as well, because I've seen it. It's called the Instant Tarot Reader,
Instant
and
tarot. There we go.
yeah,
So guys, take
I
note of that.
used
Instant
this
tarot card
one.
reader.
It's by Monty Faber and Amy Zerner. That's the names.
And you found that deck
So
useful to hone your skills as well.
yeah, I actually probably learnt more from that than I did with trying to use the book that I bought, because the book was very much based on that older way of interpreting things. And the problem is that tarot and the original Rider-Waite deck is not based very much in modern society, so trying to
Yeah.
interpret the symbols and the messages is quite hard sometimes. And with anything like anything energetic, you kind of need to trust your intuition. So yeah,
Yeah.
my auntie was the first person I started practicing on.
Wow. So we touched very briefly on your oracle decks. Tell the
Mhm.
people here. This is what I've been waiting for. Tell the people in. I know it's going to be good. How many oracle decks do you have
Okay, so
at the
including
minute?
tarot and oracle,
Yeah, all of
at the
them.
moment I'm sitting at, I actually haven't done a proper count, so I'd be at about 150 at the moment. Um, and I've got about four that are on their way on order.
150 decks.
Yep, and
150. That's right.
I've backed three on Kickstarter recently as well. So it's an addiction. It's
Everybody here
serious
goes,
addiction.
wow. 150 decks. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
going to throw this out there. I think you have a problem, but it's a nice problem.
Well, the worst thing is that I
Yeah.
actually got most of them in the last year. So because I didn't start doing professional readings until this time last year. Actually, it's been a year now since I launched my business,
Wow.
and I only had about 30 decks at that point, and it was then that I just started ordering more and more, and it just got out of control. Because then I was
Okay.
making a little bit of money, and I was like, well, that
Yeah,
justifies buying more decks.
of
You're
course
gonna
it
have
does.
themes as well.
Who wouldn't want to
So
have all those decks? And
yeah.
it's nice to have a wide choice. Now, so we got 150 decks because I saw your TikTok and I was like, oh my God, what is all those decks? And I had to ask you. So, out of all those decks, have you
Mhm,
got ones that you're so okay, so go rewind, let's start again. So when you get a deck of oracle cards, I want to get your
mhm,
feelings on this. Some people say there's a book, don't read the book, just use your
mhm.
intuition, look at the pictures and the saying on the card to interpret the person's reading. What's your feelings?
Yeah.
How do you do? Because everybody's different. Some people like to read the book, some people don't. Some will just look at the
Mm.
pictures. How do you do it? What's your advice?
So when I get a new deck, I have a kind of a method. So I mean, I'd love to be able to do unboxings and stuff, but as soon as a deck arrives, I rip into it like a kid opening up a present. I can't help myself, and
Really?
I
I'm
have to,
surprised.
so what I generally will do is I'll go through the deck just to look at the images to get a feel for it.
Yeah,
I'm not I tend to call myself a lazy witch because I'm not one of these people that puts things out in the moon or cleanses everything all the time. Like
yeah,
it's my intention and my energy. Sometimes I'll do big
yeah,
elaborate things, but
yeah,
it's more so infusing my energy into the deck. So I'll just go through the deck and I'll do a little bit of a shuffle just to see a few cards, and
yeah,
then I'll place it aside. What I generally do, my method with actually connecting with a deck and working with a deck is I work with it as a daily reading for myself. So I will draw a
okay,
card each morning and journal. But I
okay,
actually love using guidebooks as well. And my reason for this is because when you buy a deck, you're not just buying the cards and their meanings, you're buying the creator's interpretation of a deck and the
yeah,
story behind the cards.
yeah,
So it's the only way to continue to develop your skills. It's like watching readings on YouTube and Instagram
yeah,
and
yeah,
TikTok and stuff, because how I interpret a particular card is going to be different to how someone else does. But sometimes you might hear something and you go, that's actually a really good way of seeing that card. And each
yeah,
deck has its own energy. So, if
yeah,
I work with one of my witchcraft decks, like the Green Witch, for example, it's going to have a very different energy to my Grail deck, which is all about the
yeah,
Holy Grail and the
yeah.
Christian tradition. So that's why I
I
like
mean,
to
where do you
read them,
find all
because
these
it's all
decks?
about the
Where do
story.
you find all these decks? Where do you find all these decks? I've never heard of the Holy Grail deck. I've never heard of Green Witch deck. Obviously, I can't find a deck. I still can't choose one for me. I don't know. I'm an overthinker about it. But listening to you gives me more confidence because some people say you have to connect to a deck. Do you believe that or
Mm.
not, or is it how you read the deck?
Um, I think it's yes and no, because there's some decks that I don't necessarily always connect with, but there's a
Yeah,
kind of a caveat with that too, because I've got some decks that I purchased years ago and I just never connected with it, and now I actually
yeah.
do, because it's different stages
Okay,
of your life, it's different messages as well. So
okay.
it's kind of a little bit of both. There is some decks that I use all the time because I have a really great connection with them, and I know I'm going to be able to just get messages really quickly. And
Yeah,
then there's other decks that, so when I do a reading, for example, for like a professional reading for someone, I tend to intuitively choose the decks. I don't go into a
yeah,
reading going, okay, I'm going to use this deck. I will hear what the person's saying and or wait for their question, and then I will just
yeah,
look at my decks and see which one's calling out. And it might be a deck that I don't have a strong connection with, but I trust that the messages will come through.
yeah. Um, okay, yeah. So 150 decks. I mean, that's just amazing. I mean, hopefully one day I'll get you back on, and we'll do like a deck journey because I'd love to go through. I'm sure these lovely people here would love to see some of your decks. So at the minute, have you got top three decks? I know it's difficult because you've got 150. Is there three decks you love working with? Which ones do you really love for whatever reason?
Okay, so I'd probably have to go with ones that I reference the most. So the first one would be my Green Witch Tarot.
And can we
Because this is
have a look at
one
the
that,
card? Is that okay? Would you
yeah,
mind
sure.
showing? Could you? Thank you, because it's always nice to see the pictures. If you wouldn't mind, thank you.
This is
So this is a
also another
Greenwood
one
deck.
that I would highly recommend this one for people who are learning as well, because the guidebook doesn't just go into just the messages. There's a lot of symbolism with it as well.
Okay,
And
and that's the Greenwich
the
deck.
yeah. So I'll just show a couple of the cards. There's a bit of a glare, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, this one I probably use the most
Yeah.
in terms of my readings. It's probably the most worn deck as well. So
You've got lovely colourful.
then
It's very, very, very distinct pictures. Very colourful pictures.
yeah, it's very beautiful artwork. And then I reckon the next one would be
I know it's hard, Lizzie. With 150 decks, it must be hard.
I would say anything by Lucy Cavendish, because I've got most of her
Lucy Cavendish,
decks.
everybody.
Anything by her. Her oracle decks are absolutely amazing. So I would say anything by her. But
Oh,
in
I love
terms of
them.
other decks, I would say the next one would be these. It's actually pretty. Not that one. Hang on. You got me thinking.
Yeah, that's all right.
This one would be probably the other one that I use the most, and this is called Tara Nefertari. So it's an Egyptian
Oh, so it's
deck,
like an Egyptian.
and I absolutely
That's
love
never seen one
Egypt.
of them. Yeah, I
And
have a. I love everything like
this has got the shiny
that. Ooh,
foil on it as well. So, and
wow.
it's got that traditional, like it looks like the pictures in the tombs, and they're deliberately designed to look worn and old. So I use this one quite a lot as well. Um, the only
They're
thing
really
is
beautiful
if
cards,
you're
aren't they?
They are stunning. The only thing is,
Yeah.
though, the guidebook is just a very simple piece of paper, so it's got very
Okay.
simple words in it. So it's if you're not quite sure how to work with the Tara, I wouldn't recommend it as a beginner deck.
Mhm.
And then the next one would be now this. See, those first two decks you can get in most online places everywhere.
Yeah.
This deck is actually an indie deck. So this was the second
An indie
version
deck.
of it, and I absolutely love this. This is called the Oak, Ashen, Thorne deck. So this
Oh
is
wow,
the box
that's an
that comes
interesting
in,
one. Yeah.
and she's actually the lady who's designed it is from the UK as well, I believe.
Okay.
And all of this is printed on um, recycled paper, carbon neutral prints, like
Oh
vegetable
wow.
stuff, vegetable oils and
Yeah.
everything. And the card, that's the back of the card.
Oh, that's
And
pretty.
these are the images on the cards.
Oh, I like them.
So I have a
Oh
real
wow.
yeah, they're just so beautiful. I
They
absolutely
are, aren't
love
they?
anything that
And they've got
is
like a matte
woodland.
finish to it. It's like a.
Yeah,
It's not that glossy look. It's matte finish, isn't it? Or so
that's
yeah.
it. And they're
So what?
quite thick and
Yeah.
solid cards as well. So it's just an absolutely stunning deck. So this one's probably I
And what's
haven't
the name
worked
of
with
that
it
deck
enough
again?
yet.
What's
It's
that name
called
of that deck
the
again?
Three Tree. There we go. It's the Three Trees Tarot. And it's also Oak, Ashen, Thorn. So they're creating a second deck at the moment, which is going to have dragons in it. So I'm really excited. So
Oh,
um,
dragons. Yeah.
yeah, so you can get this on her website. She has her website. So it's not the cheapest of decks. This is probably the most expensive deck that I've purchased, because
Yeah.
that's factoring in the delivery fee as well, because it's coming from the UK to Australia,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
cheap, but it was
Yeah. It'll be
worth
in the
it. This
UK. Have a look.
is stunning.
And would you say that's an easy deck to read, or does it take a bit of training?
Not yes, not really if you're wanting to go really in depth, because I'll see all she has in here is just like the card and like
Yeah.
very basic, you can't really see, just very basic keywords. It's
Yeah.
designed to
Yeah.
be a little bit more intuitive, so if you're looking for
So
something
you're reading something using your
that goes
intuition
more
as
in
well.
depth, yeah.
So okay. So thank you. So I mean, I wish we could look through all your decks. It'd be amazing. I expect there's some decks you've got now that you can't get anymore. Probably you can't even. There's some decks now you can't even purchase anymore, can you? So you've got a lovely. I mean, so far you have the
Yeah.
biggest collection of decks in any one of these I've done so far, which is fantastic. So when you do a reading, you do an oracle. Do you do a particular spread? Do you do, when you did tarot, did like the Celtic cross, or with the oracle cards, do you do a particular spread? How do you read? What's your method?
So I learned by doing the traditional Celtic cross quite a lot,
Celtic
and
cross.
also
Yeah.
the 3-card spread of past, present, and future.
Yeah.
But I don't actually really have, I wouldn't say I have a structure or a spread. I
Yeah.
tend to usually pull 6 cards when I'm
Okay.
doing a reading. It just seems to be a number that I like, but there's no structure of this is past, this is present, this is future. It all comes down to the actual reading. And
Yeah.
my problem is, so for example, like when I go live and do free readings over on Facebook and stuff, I have a problem
Mm.
of I will just keep going until the message is delivered. So if it means I have to use 10 different decks and 100
Yeah.
cards, then that's what I'm going to use because
Yeah.
I've just become lost in that. So I don't have an actual
Yeah.
structure with any particular spread. I wish I had structure like that, but when I get into that energy, the messages just come the way they need to come.
So say if you're doing a private reading, so is it the deck, the 6 cards you're laying out, is that around a
Mhm.
specific question, or is it just a general reading? Or is it something
So
asking you specific?
it depends on the person. Um, I tend to offer my biggest readings that I get is usually shadow readings, so working with the shadow self, shadow work,
Yeah.
Akashic records readings, and past life readings are a big thing, and also
Yeah.
obviously you get the love and career coming in as well. So it
Yeah.
is always based on what the person's looking for. So I always say if you're going in for a general reading, you're going to get a general answer because there's nothing
Yeah.
that spirit can really pinpoint. There might be a specific message that comes through, but the more specific you can be with a question, the more specific your answer is going to be.
Okay. So that leads on very nicely too. Do you have spirit guides?
Yes.
And if you,
I
how many do you have?
I don't know lots, and
Okay.
they do a lot with me on the astral. My dreams are really, really crazy active. I have a lot of deities that come through as well. So the Egyptian god Thoth, for
Really?
example, is one that I
Oh wow.
connect with a lot. I have interacted with Aphrodite before. That was fun. That was through a meditation. So
I love
I
them.
actually only just started connecting with spirit guides in the past 2 years. I started going to a group meditation at a
Yeah.
spiritual
Yeah.
store, and
Yeah.
um, she does a guided meditation with spirit guides and meeting your spirit guides. So I've slowly sort of met a few as I got better at meditation, and now
Yeah.
they just come through whenever they want to come through. So
Yeah.
yes, I have a
So yeah,
lot.
'cause so do you have one specific one you talk to more than anybody else? Because I have two with me. I did a thing like mediumship, and I got
Mhm.
Harry and Maria. Maria is from Atlantis, and apparently we had a relationship eons ago, and that's why she was drawn to me.
Yeah.
So I work with two. I know everybody does it differently. Some people have spirit guides that fly in all the time. Some rotate and change. Some stay with
Hmm.
you if you're connected to them. Um, but I'm fascinated by because I love anything Egyptian. I mean, you put me on Discovery Channel, I can watch them digging for tombs for ages. I love those
Yeah.
programs, and you probably do. So this leads on nicely too. If you've had past life regression done, is it in the Egyptian? Have you got a past life from the Egyptian side of things? Do you know your
Hmm.
past life regression?
I know quite a few. Through a lot of
Yeah,
my spirit guided meditations is where a lot of come
yeah,
through. I ended up becoming the person that everyone used because we share our meditations at the end of meditation. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
ended up becoming the one that everyone was excited for to listen to my experiences because there were always something crazy, a crazy story of some sort. And I have lived a few lifetimes in Egypt. Um, one
I
of my
thought so.
key
Yeah,
ones yeah, one of my key ones was actually in Lemuria, and it's actually my higher self, an energy from my higher self and that
Yeah,
lifetime that I connect with, and that's been one of the key guides that's helped me through things. I've also connected to my cosmic lifetime before I actually incarnated into Earth as well, so
yeah,
that's quite intense.
yeah.
And one of my more recent ones was actually as a witch, and being condemned
Right.
and burnt as well. So I'm really lucky
You
that
had that in the meditation. Did you see that in the meditation?
yeah,
The whole whip. Oh,
yeah. It was the
that
very
must be quite
first
harrowing.
meditation, the very first spirit guide meditation that
Wow.
I went into, because I'd been dealing with a lot of issues around something personal, I went in, I'd never
Yeah,
experienced meditation like that before. So I kind of
yeah,
went in and was like, I'm just going to see what happens. I didn't expect anything to happen. And it was actually the goddess who came to me first, and just that overall energy of the goddess. She came through as Maiden, Mother, and Crone, and they showed me that lifetime that was connected to a lot of the issues that I'd been having. So
yeah.
it was a very, if I cried, and it was a very
I
intense
can
thing,
imagine.
for
Yeah.
the first meditation that I'd ever experienced like that. So yeah.
That's amazing because I think of the first person on all four episodes I've had of somebody who's so deeply spiritual, connected on the meditation. I keep on telling people meditation is the key. If you can get into a
Mm,
very deep, when you do first have a deep meditation and you had your third eye open and things just start to open up, a whole new world to you. It's the most amazing thing ever. And I think you're
yeah.
one of the people I've met spiritually wise who's so in tune with their past lives and how you work. I find that just amazing to listen to. So yeah, really, really interesting. So
A lot of it actually came through from dreams as well, because I've always
for dreams,
journaled stuff and journaled dreams, and there's
yeah,
diaries that I have when I've looked back on dreams that I've had then that have been like, for example, I had a dream that I never understood when I was about 19,
yeah,
and it was a dream about discovering a tomb that had the name Sargon on it, and I never
yeah,
understood that. And now, as an adult with doing research, I've actually connected that and realized that that was a king in the ancient times. So
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of my dreams also show me past life stuff. And that's when it's like my guides are kind of like showing me everything because I'm supposed to learn and
yeah.
remember everything from past lives. You feel crazy
Okay.
sometimes. It's hard not to be
No, but
feel like
you know
you're
what?
a bit crazy.
Yeah, but then I think everybody I've done so far has also had that spiritual connection. But your story is probably one of the deepest spiritual connections I've heard about past life regression, how you interpret things, your dreams. So it's really interesting to see how you do things. I'm sure everybody watching is really interesting to do that. So this leads me nicely on to you. So let's talk about the life cycle. So when somebody
Mhm,
dies, what's your belief? What happens in your beliefs? What happens when somebody passes away? What happens? Do you think?
mhm. So I do believe in the concept of reincarnation, obviously because there's that past life energy of past life connections and that sort of thing. But I also feel like there's kind of like an in-between period as well, where your soul is its source, where you're kind of it's where you it's like how do I describe it? It's kind of like a place where you would rewrite your contracts, review everything that you've gone
Yeah,
through, kind of have a break. And I do see that this is a place where people can, if they're waiting for someone else, for example, when it's dealing with spirits, where they might be waiting for someone else to pass over,
yeah,
or just wanting to have a break from incarnating onto the earth plane because it's pretty dense and heavy here and
yeah,
intense.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I do feel like there's an in between aspect as well. But yeah,
Cool.
reincarnation is the biggest thing.
Yeah. So going back to when you do your readings,
Mhm.
obviously sometimes when you're um, so would you class yourself as psychic and empathic as well?
Um,
Because you work with spirit and you, yeah. What would you? Because obviously you pick up people's emotions by the sounds of it as well when you're reading. Is that
yeah,
yeah? So you can visualize or you get messages through about
yeah.
situations, what's happening. So yeah, what would you say you're psychic and empathic, an empath as well?
I would say all of those things. The only thing I find uncomfortable about using these terms, and I say this a lot when
Mm.
I'm on my YouTube channel and stuff as well, is my
Yeah,
mission here is to to show people that everyone is empathic, everyone is psychic, everyone has the ability
Yeah,
to get in tune with their clairs and that kind of thing. So I find in the modern day spiritual community, we have this, it's almost this hierarchy, and without realizing it, when we say, oh, you're an empath, or I'm an empath, or I'm
yeah,
psychic, or I'm a medium, it's like we're placing
yeah,
ourselves above other people, because we all have the ability. So yes, I
yeah,
would say
yeah.
that if I had to say to
Totally
someone,
agree with you.
what are you? I would say, yeah, okay, I'm a psychic. But it's that energy that's attached to those words that I've never really
Yeah,
been comfortable with, because everyone has this ability. They just need to tap
they do.
into
This
it.
is true. Yeah, I tell people when I have coffee, more spiritual coffee or mornings, and I say all of you have the ability. It's just tapping into
Mm,
that and finding your pathway, which is best suited for you. But this
exactly.
universe is so big. We're a very tiny dot in a massive universe of things that we can't explain or new paths we can travel. That's a really
Mm,
interesting perspective on it. I've not heard that yet, but I like that a lot. So it's because I've on TikTok, I've only obviously you get trolls and things, negative people who come on,
mm,
but I've only met one person who's criticised me. It was a spiritist woman, and he said, "You can't do this. There's nothing in you that says you can do any of this at all." And I thought that I didn't believe that for a minute. So when you do your reading, how do you protect us? Do you protect yourself with if you do a reading with somebody? Do you protect yourself to stop any sort of negative energies coming onto you?
Um, I have to admit, my guides have been pulling me up on this a little bit lately, because I've almost been one of those cocky kind of people that just goes, I'm all right. I'm okay when I go into things. Like, my guides will help me out,
Oh, don't tell me.
Um, so I don't really have when I first started doing readings and started doing them professionally for people, because I was still
Yeah,
new to it, I did have a process that I went through of grounding myself and tuning in
yeah,
and stuff, whereas now I just kind of jump straight into it. But it's almost, it's like the confidence that I have within myself that I can sense any kind of negativity. And I've been pretty
yeah,
lucky. Um, you get a couple of people here and there, but
yeah,
I just don't seem to attract that. And I'm also someone who's pretty point blank as well. So I
yeah,
might be a spiritual person, but if someone comes onto a live feed, for example, and they're negative, I'm also going to put them in their place, because it's not fair on
yeah.
everyone else either.
No,
So
totally agree.
yeah, so
Yeah,
but I have been pulled up on that a bit lately, with my guides warning me that I need to be a little bit more intense with my protection.
yeah,
And if I was going to do that, like, I always wear crystals and things like that, so I'm
yeah,
pretty confident in that. I just need to do
yeah.
more intention with that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
don't upset your guides too much. You. So that's really thank you. So that leads nice on because I noticed in some of your TikToks, you use crystals and things. So
Mhm.
what do you use your crystals for? Do you use them for a specific reason, or do you just keep them around your house? Do you cleanse? How do you cleanse them? How do you? It's not another telling me to cleanse my crystals. How do you work with crystals in your life?
Um, so I mean, this room is my office room, so this is pretty much where
Yeah,
all
I've
my
seen it.
crystals are
Very
now.
nice. Yeah,
Because I like the aesthetic of it. I like the energy. With crystals, I tend to work with them the most by wearing them on my body, and
yeah,
I go with whatever energy I'm trying to work with at that particular time. So for example, I've got carnelian and tiger's eye on at the moment for motivation
yeah. I
and
got told on
confidence,
my finger.
because
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And then I've got Labradorite on this side, which is that psychic ability. And also it depends too. So for example, if I start seeing a crystal come up a lot, like if I see it on social media heaps, or if I just
yeah,
hear that reference, then I'll go, well, that's clearly something I need to work with. So I'll work with that. But
yeah.
in general, that's probably the only way I really connect with crystals, is personally on my body. I do sometimes do readings with crystals as well, where I
Oh,
will
really?
intuitively pick crystals and do a
Oh,
reading
wow.
based on what that message is from that particular crystal as well.
So yeah, if you wouldn't, is it okay if we dig down a little bit deep on how you read crystals? That's really
Mhm.
interesting. So if you just explain what the sense you pick up and how you do it, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So, generally, like, I've got a container here, for example, which has got all my crystals in it. If I'm going to intuitively read a crystal, I will just close my eyes and, it's like when you're picking charms out and stuff as well, when you
Yeah,
just grab whatever crystal's coming through. And then for example, let's say it's just rose quartz, because everyone knows rose quartz.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
if that comes through, I'm going to do a reading based on what the crystal means, but also anything that I pick up as well. So it's no different to reading an oracle card or a tarot card with seeing intuitive messages. So, rose
Yeah.
quartz most people think of as love or self-love, but I might see it as something different depending on the energies that I'm picking up. So that's usually how I'll do it. I don't do it as
Oh,
often
okay.
as I used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so even if so for example, if I do like a pick a card reading on my YouTube channel and I use a crystal, I intuitively select the
Yeah.
crystals. And then at the beginning of the reading, I actually go into what I'm picking up from the crystal and the messages that it has. And I also like to go into, because I like scientific stuff as well. So I like to go
Yeah.
into the scientific properties of the crystal and what it works with in terms of how it affects your body, things like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I'll
That's really
intuitively read
interesting.
with them.
And how do you cleanse your crystals? Because everybody does it a bit differently. How do you how do you normally cleanse your crystals?
Well, going back to that being a lazy witch, so this is how I see things.
Yeah.
My window is
Yeah.
always open, so there's always a little bit of sunlight and moonlight that's going to come
Yeah.
through, but
I see you
generally
were
all
going
I
with it.
do, yeah, I just run it through a bit of incense. That's my way of cleansing it.
Okay.
Because you know, I wish I was organized and structured enough to lay all my crystals out every full moon and new moon and charge them. And sometimes I might run them underwater as well if I feel that the
Yeah.
need to. But generally,
Yeah.
I just run them through incense. Sometimes you might run them through a flame as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
incense is my go-to thing because it's so easy. I
We had
like
a lady on last
simplicity
night.
and spirituality.
Yeah. Lauren, who was on last night, works with crystals, and she uses a tuning fork. So the
Yeah,
tuning fork is a frequency of like 1,000 hertz, and she tunes fork. She cleanses her crystal. I've never heard that before. That was a new one to me. I've never heard of that. And she showed us the tuning fork. She tuned it, and she says
yeah.
the frequency sound cleanses the crystal. That was a new one to me. I never heard that one before, but it's really interesting. So, have you had in your experience in the spiritual world you live in, have you ever had anything negative try to attach to you or anything bad?
Hmm.
Because obviously you're quite open, aren't you, with your spirit guides and things. So, so
Yeah.
if you could give us if you want, give us a recollection of how you dealt with that and what it felt
Hmm.
like for you.
Sure. So throughout my entire life in dreams, I have had encounters with one particular being quite a lot. Never physically hurts me, but the energy within the dreams is constantly, it's like this war of constantly being in battle. And it's an energy
Mm.
that my family members have also encountered as well. So and it wasn't only, and sorry, you can probably hear my cats running around like crazy animals in the
All right,
background
don't
now.
worry. Don't worry about it.
Um, so the past year and a half, when I went a lot deeper into my spiritual practice, I started doing more research and started understanding what that entity was because I hadn't really encountered it in my dreams for quite some time. And I started doing more research into just dark energies, and things just came up. They just came up in that
Yeah,
way that they always do because I started encountering this energy in the house again that was kind of like, when you see things out the corner of your eye and you're like,
yeah,
did
like
I see
orbs
that?
and or
Didn't I?
shadows or
Yeah.
yeah,
And there
yeah,
was this entity that was in the bedroom and was constantly moving the bedroom door. And our bedroom door, even with both like all of the doors open in the house, even with a breeze, it doesn't move. So that's when I started picking up
yeah.
on it. And I did a meditation to connect with it, even though I got told by my other spiritual friends, don't try and do that. And I'm like, I'm going to try it because I'm stubborn and I want to know. So,
Yeah,
and the only message I got from it was that it was called a watcher, and they're actually a neutral being. They're not good, they're not bad, but they can report back to both kind of lighter energies, negative
oh, okay,
energies.
yeah.
And it wasn't long after that that things started coming up and talking to people and other people had encountered it. So I realized what it was. And then probably about a month later, I had a situation where I'd been watching a TV show, and it was a really light-hearted TV show, like feel good, make you laugh kind of show. And then as soon as I turned it off, I just happened to be scrolling on a spiritual page that I'm a member of, and someone had asked for a reading because they thought that they had something negative attached to them, and I happened to see that as I was finishing this show, and I went from being super happy to, as soon as everything stopped, I went into this dark, depressive, like suicidal kind of thoughts. And I was communicating with
Really?
a few spiritual friends at that time,
Yeah.
um, and sort of said to him, I told him what was happening, and I said, this isn't normal. And I realized that there was actually something that had either jumped through from that person's post or had taken the opportunity to connect. And it was a very surreal situation, because it was almost like, I don't want to use the term possessed because I don't like possession energies, but it did feel quite similar to that. And I still have recordings of things that I said, because I started recording
Wow.
myself because I felt like a channel
Yeah.
of things that I said during that time. And it was actually with the help of other people and pushing the energy from myself to detach it, that I removed it. And other people in my spiritual group at that time, over the space of the next week, they all encountered the same energy through dreams. Even their children were encountering it as well. So
That's great.
it was quite intense, and it was a
Yeah.
combined effort, not just from myself but from other people, to help push the energy away,
Yeah.
because it couldn't completely attach, because of the fact that I was a higher vibration. So it's just about
Yeah.
having your
Yeah.
vibration high. If you allow yourself to get low, that's when things can affect you.
Yeah.
That's my theory on it anyway.
Okay. So if anybody's just joined us, we're about 45 minutes into our conversation now with Lizzie. Lizzie is reads oracle cards. Just a quicker, just if you just join us, she has 150 decks. I must make that clear. We've already discussed that. So if you do miss this, it will be on my YouTube channel, Reiki Tree. Lizzie, you can download this as well from your live
Oh,
and put it to
perfect.
where you can download it as well. But it'll be on Reiki Tree on YouTube. So coming towards the end of this process of your spiritual journey. But if so what we're going to do is, Lizzie, I've got a top 10 things that you do's and don'ts,
Hmm.
like I told you before.
Yep.
So we're gonna see what you say. Oh, actually, no, there's one
Okay.
more question I have. Please just explain to people about being a green witch, if you could briefly.
Yep.
What's it like being a green witch, and what does it mean, and
Sure.
how do you work in this earth realm?
So to me, being a green witch predominantly is about connecting with nature. It's about using nature as the base of my belief system, and also as the vessel for me pushing out magic, I guess you could say, if you want to use that
Yeah,
term, or your energy intentions. It's kind of a combination too of kitchen witchery as well. I'm a gardener, so it's working with
yeah,
natural products,
yeah. I saw that on
herbal
your
things,
TikTok.
that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
And I would also say it's the core of my belief system sort of comes from that deep connection to nature, working with the elements,
yeah,
and a lot of those deities as well. So traditional Celtic pagan deities,
yeah,
that sort of
yeah,
thing. That's sort of like the underruling platform to my
yeah.
belief system.
So it's like with me, because I do Reiki, but nature's always played a massive part in my life. Being out there, the energy, the story that trees can tell. They all have a voice. This is just
Yeah.
my beliefs. But that's how you live your life, very holistic, natural,
Yeah.
connecting with nature. Cool. Okay, are you ready for your 10 of I do's and I
I
don'ts? Are you
am.
ready?
Yep.
Let's go for it. Okay, so it's a do I don't. If you don't, we want to know why. Angels, do you believe or don't you believe?
I do, but I
Okay,
didn't
you do,
always.
but as a caravan, okay.
Yeah, I didn't always have a big belief in angels. In fact, I almost was repelled by the concept of it because they were very connected to
Really?
Christianity. However, now
Yeah.
I have had plenty of interactions with angels, and I believe in them. So,
So would
and they're
you
not
would you
all.
class them? Sorry, some people
Yeah.
class them as, like we had Mark on the other night, who's a spiritual medium training. He doesn't believe in angels. He believes in higher beings.
Hmm.
Is that the same sort of principle?
Um,
Is that what you think, or do you believe in angels?
Yeah, and I would always say though, when it comes to anything that's outside of our physical 3D world, that it's
Yeah,
like a hierarchy, and they're just different. It's like different planets. They're all just from
yeah,
different planes of existence or different energies. So, and personally, when we're dealing with angels, they aren't all sunshine and lollipops with me. They are very stern,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and very protective though.
yeah, yeah. I know that, man. That makes sense as well. I think some people have this belief that angels are lovely, but some can be stern and have to pick on the right track. Okay, so that's a do. I do believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, the demonic possession. Do you do or you don't believe?
It's a difficult one to I believe in entities. I don't believe in demons per se. I believe in lower
Okay,
entities. I and interpretations
negative.
of them. But yeah, so I do
Okay,
believe that people can have an entity attach, and that energy of possession, because you. But I believe that's because in some way you have given up your free will because you're sitting in a low energy, or you're,
yeah,
if you're in a depressive state, for example, which is a lot of
yeah,
personal power and self-esteem issues. I
yeah,
don't believe in it being a demon per se. I believe it's
yeah.
more just darker energies that, it's like the
Okay,
trickster kind of energy.
yeah. So we go for a don't on demon possession, but
Hmm.
negative energies can be there as a yes.
Yes.
Okay, so are you ready? Aliens, other lives. Do you believe
100%
in
yes.
aliens? Good.
Yes,
Well, we
and
should be good for experience.
I love a good conspiracy theory. But I want to
Good.
sort of say in terms of aliens, I see it's like the
Yeah.
star seed, star beings, and that sort of thing.
Starseed.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
energies. I mean, I think it's a bit silly to think that we're the only things in existence in this world. So,
I agree with
but
you.
yeah, and
Yeah.
any
I
conspiracy
totally agree
theory,
with you.
I love it. So,
That's another good. I think when I was a kid, well, I used to get these spiritual magazines and the UFO magazines all the time. It's
mhm.
just you need to know. Okay, so this is. I know this is going to be a yes. Past lives. You believe in past lives? You do or you don't? You do,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
And you've had a few yourself. Okay, so spirits and ghosts. Do you believe in spirits and ghosts?
yes.
Yeah,
I believe that there is a slight difference. I actually feel like when it comes to ghosts, it's more that energetic
yeah,
imprint of someone that's left behind, as opposed to
yeah.
a
Like,
spiritual being that has a thought process
yeah,
kind of
like
thing.
the
So,
stone
yes.
wall theory, where it's just a replay of somebody's energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so you would say spirits and ghosts are two separate things.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody asked that question last night about spirits and ghosts, and you would say that two ghosts is more of a replay of an energy that's trapped in
Yeah.
that moment, and spirits are more that come to you are more ready to talk to you and things like that. That's a very
Exactly.
simplistic way of putting it. I know. Okay. So
Yeah.
you said yes. Um, do you believe in time travel? You do or you don't?
Oh, yes, to a degree. I
Okay.
believe that we eventually will have the ability to do it, but I also believe that time is a man-made thing. So to say
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
time travel is about looking at how do you perceive time. I mean, look at our time difference, for example. We're on the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
planet, yet I'm technically in the future at the moment.
You
So it's
and you just completely my hair's going spinning now. Yeah, that's right. You're in the future. Ridiculous. I never thought of that. Yes,
so
you are.
but yeah,
Tell me what have I missed? What have I missed?
nothing important. So, and I do believe, obviously, with a spiritual situation, because you have astral
Yeah,
travel, things like that, there's
yeah.
accessing time differences as
So
well. Yeah.
I asked this question as well. Do you suffer with a lot of deja vu? Where you've been
Yes.
and done something? Yeah. So would you class it as a time traveler into a certain extent? You've already done that in the future, and it's just yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, so it's a
Either
yes,
that or
but with
parallel
caveats.
lines, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Fairies. Do you believe in fairies? I do or I don't?
Yes. I
You do.
work with them a
Yeah,
lot.
you do. Oh, do you tell me more? Come on.
Well, as I said, I am a gardener as well, so I have
Yeah, you are.
a very wild sort of garden that I have here, and I like to work. Fairies are probably one of the first things that I started working with in terms of nature spirits and those kind of
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
also actually I'm a writer as well, and I write fiction, and my fiction is based around the Fae. So yeah,
Oh, okay. So,
definitely believe
so,
in
do
them.
you, so is it just a feeling you pick up when you physically see them? Or is it
Sometimes
just the
both.
energy?
Yeah,
Really?
sometimes
Wow.
both. Yeah.
That's so
I
cool.
still I'm still learning to trust my intuition with my sight again because it was something that I switched off so much when I was a bit
Yeah,
younger.
yeah,
So I don't see them as much as I sense them and feel them. And it's that feeling of the energy and hearing them. I always hear them.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so auras. You do believe in auras, you don't believe in auras?
Yes.
You do. And what colour, do you know what colour your aura is? I know it changes sometimes. But have you ever been told what colour your aura is?
I don't feel like auras stay as one color. And this is a big thing in the
Okay.
spiritual communities. Everyone's like, read my aura. What color is my aura? But I believe it's like the chakra system.
Yeah,
Everything is influenced by the energy that you're in at that point in
yeah,
time. So your
yeah,
aura can change constantly.
yeah,
And it also depends on your mood. Like I could read, say your aura is
yeah,
red, for example, and then tomorrow it might be blue. So yeah,
yeah,
I don't see it as just one particular color.
yeah,
I actually don't really read auras very much. I get told quite a
yeah.
lot that mine tends to be quite sparkly though, when people
Okay.
see mine.
Okay, because I work a lot with chakras, obviously doing Reiki and chakras and karmic
Mm.
cords, energy funnels, and things like that. Okay, so my next question: do you believe in Reiki, universal healing? You do, you don't?
Yes, I do, but
I'm
I
glad you
wish
said
that
you
I
did.
Um,
Because I
I
do. That's
definitely
my
believe
thing.
in it. It's just something I've never
Yeah,
connected with. It's on my to-do list to study because I like to study
yeah,
things, but it's like on
yeah,
the
yeah,
bottom of my to-do list. I've just never
yeah, yeah,
connected with that energy that much. But
yeah.
yeah, I 100% believe in it.
So far we've got 9 yeses and 1 no, and there's been a couple possible I don't, but we've turned them as yeses. This is the big one. This is the one that gets everybody because I believe in it. Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Do you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe in all of those things because the idea has to come from somewhere.
Nobody believes in Bigfoot. Last time people are like, no, I don't believe in Bigfoot. Oh, come on. Cryptozoology. There's got to be something out there. And they're all going, no, don't believe in it. I'm taking it as a big
Here in
yes because you're the first one to go. That's a
here in
yes.
Australia, we have the bunyip. That's what we have. It's
Bunyip.
called the
Yeah.
bunyip. Yeah.
Sasquatch,
So
Bigfoot, Bunyip, cryptozoology. Come on, it's a big
the Loch
universe. You can't
Ness.
tell me. Pardon?
Exactly. The Loch Ness monster, they've all got to have some
Exactly. Yeah.
theory behind it.
So out of your do's and don'ts, we had a 9 of do's and 1 a don't, but that was more demonic possession. So if you're happy to, Lizzie, if we go to some questions, please remember, guys, this is not a reading. It's just some questions for Lizzie. And after you finish the Q&A, then it's Lizzie's turn to basically tell you guys what she's up to, where you can find her, what she does, how to book with her. I know there's a time difference in Australia, but I'm sure she's very busy and can work around things. So if you've got any questions for Lizzie, please put them up now and I'll ask them to her. But remember, it's not readings, this is just questions. Here we go. Waiting for it. I'll try. I will try. Here we go. Any questions? There will be some. It's got to take a minute. The
It's
thinking
that
thing.
delay when
Yeah,
you
it could
get
be.
things
Yeah, it
come
could be.
through.
Yeah, hang on. Okay. So, what cards are best for beginners? Something I know we covered this, but what cards would you suggest? Oracle cards is the one you can get freely. Are they all coming through now? What cards would you say are best for beginners, Lizzie? What you can buy on Amazon or something like that?
I would say there's no specific deck that's best for beginners, but I would always suggest if you're going to get cards, get a tarot deck and an oracle deck so you can compare the two different energies,
Oh,
and
okay.
work with your intuition in two different ways. And just choose something that suits you. I tend to, when I'm picking a deck, I pick things based on the theme, the name, and then I will look on things like Instagram so I can see all the images of cards, to see if
Yeah,
the pictures resonate. So if you can get in and feel them and touch them, if you can go to a store, that's always great as
yeah.
well. But yeah, there's no specific deck that I would say is good or bad for a beginner. It's just always get a tarot deck and an oracle deck. So that way you can see the difference between the two.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the next question is, only because I feel I have so many different areas I can do. How do I focus? The question is, I feel I have so many different areas. I think, in spiritually wise, how I can do. How do I focus on one? What would you advise? Because you do a lot of study and you go to different things, and obviously you've got the Greenwich thing, which you're more. That's more what you're based around now. But what would you suggest to somebody? How do they focus on one particular thing?
Oh, I actually would say don't focus on one particular thing. Have multiple things going at once and just follow that thread where it leads you, because if you can multitask, obviously, and if you're really wanting to focus on one or two things, um, imagine your life with one thing and without one thing, like when you picturing yourself
Yeah.
like in that energy or doing that kind of thing and seeing if it's something that resonates. But really it's all about just jumping in. Just if you're not sure and you really can't make up your mind, I would write it all down on a list, close your eyes, put your finger on one, and that's where you start, and then you just work your way down the list kind of thing. So but
So
I always
intuitively.
have multiple, yeah,
So I can
I
do
have
that.
multiple things going at once. Like I've got astrology that I'm studying. I've got
Yeah.
archetypes and psychology kind of stuff going on, crystals, chakra stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm the wrong
Yeah.
person to say how do you pick one thing, because I can't pick one thing. So do it all. Is
So,
what I say.
but I think what you're saying, be intuitive. Go with what you feel is right for
Yeah.
you. So something put here is a really good question. Are fairies innocent and sweet, or are they deemed bad? Or can they be, I mean, playful bad? So what's your belief on fairies? Are they deemed innocent and sweet, or are they deemed as bad?
Um, I think that there's a hierarchy when it comes to fairies as well. So you've got like the Victorian style fairies, which are like the small little flower fairies and stuff. I do believe that that is a particular area. I do believe in the more royalty of the fae. So when you're looking at the seelie, the unseelie, but I don't believe in anything being inherently good or bad. It's like nature. They are
Mm,
nature spirits. So, you know, nature
mm.
has hurricanes, cyclones,
Yeah,
bushfires,
yeah, yeah,
things that we see as catastrophic, but it's just a part of nature. So I don't believe that they are good or bad. Trickster energy, of course, because they're playful,
yeah,
they are a reflection of nature, but I
yeah.
don't believe in them being evil or bad or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. So somebody says here, how do you know if you connect to a spirit guide or how you connect? So just briefly tell us how do you know if you have connected to a spirit guide or how do you connect to them? What do you think the best process is?
Always through meditation. I find the best process is actually through using guided meditation, because if I'm not
Yeah,
using guided meditation, then my mind can wander off too much,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
I start thinking about things. And the easiest way to tell when you're connected is, because for me, it's I might get sensations in my body, I might hear ringing in my ears, I might
yeah,
get hot and cold. And then I also will just have these random thoughts that come out of nowhere. It'd be words or ideas. Sometimes it can be you hear particular things on the radio, like a song that means something. It's really just about being observant and seeing the signs and
yeah.
the symbols around you,
And
and just trusting yourself.
would you recommend? Because I found my spirit guides through going to a spiritual group and doing a really deep meditation. Would you recommend trying to find a spiritual group can help you develop that as well?
Yeah, because I mean, I know that it's hard sometimes to find these things, and there's great stuff on YouTube, but I had the
Yeah,
same experience that it kick-started my ability
yeah,
to zone out, especially too because I was going and paying some money, and it was like
yeah, yeah,
that transaction just had me go, okay, I'm here for a purpose, and
yeah,
that
yeah,
purpose is it's a spiritual purpose, and it was a great community, but it was for a
yeah,
purpose
yeah,
to connect. As opposed to in
yeah,
your home, you can still get distracted. So yeah, I do think a
yeah,
spiritual group is, even
yeah.
if it's
It
just for a
worked for
small
me.
amount of time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And until you find your spirit guides, it worked for me, definitely.
yeah,
Okay, so moving on. I'm thinking of writing my own book of interpretations, so class interpretations, as I don't totally connect with one deck. Would you think that's a good idea? I'm thinking of writing my own book of interpretations, as I don't totally connect with one deck. What do you think about that?
100%.
I mean, yeah,
It's a great idea. I do that myself as well. I have a journal that I work with the cards, and I write down my own interpretations. It's no different to creating your own deck, and perhaps one day you might actually go, I want to. If you don't do art yourself, you might end up saying, I want to actually contact an artist and work with creating your own version of a
yeah,
deck,
yeah,
with
yeah,
your
yeah.
own
Are you going to do that?
interpretations. 100%.
Are you going to do that? You are,
I do
aren't
have
you?
a few oracle decks that I have, which is just on the loved ones, but I am working on a few different decks at the
You work on your
moment.
own
So
deck. Why would you not do
yeah,
your own deck? You must do your own deck. Yeah,
I know.
that'd be the first person. I'll be the first person to buy one. That'd be great. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, is it also true that you shouldn't accept a gift from a fairy?
I don't. I feel like they're a little bit those things are just superstitions based in
Okay.
the Victorian era, and
Yeah.
times where people were more superstitious. I'm also probably not the right person to ask because I also love fantasy. So I'm all for if someone's going to give me
Yeah.
a gift and I'm going to get whisked away to fairy, I'm saying bye-bye to
Yeah.
everyone. Sorry to my husband there.
There you
Yeah.
go. Okay.
So, but no, I
I
feel
mean,
like it's superstition.
somebody's asking, how do you bring all these different things together, e.g., cards, astrology, crystals? How do you bring them all together? And has it taken you time to develop a way to work everything together?
Um, I'd say, I mean, cards I've used since I was 16.
Mm.
Astrology, I kind of, you only know, I knew my sun sign for a while and that was it in basics. But the past year was me combining everything, and it's really hard to describe. It's I just because it's just my interpretations of bringing everything together and how they all interconnect, because
Yeah.
to me all of these things are just different facets of the same thing: astrology,
Yeah.
tarot, crystals,
Yeah.
energy. It's all part of the
Yeah.
same thing. It's just different versions and interpretations to create a broader message. So it's just really through research and trusting my own interpretations and beliefs in combining it. So yeah, I don't even really know how to describe how I combine it all. I just do.
Yeah.
That's I
Yeah.
wish I
I
had more
totally
of an
agree with you.
answer.
I mean, with my when I started Reiki like 10 years ago, and now I'm a master now, things have just progressed for me. We're finding my spirit guides, working with crystals
Mm.
more, pendulums, working my chakra cards, trying to find a deck that I can attune to possibly. Yeah, so it is a program. You do put things together. With my Reiki sessions now, I rebalance all their chakras. I check their chakras before to see if they're not balanced,
Mhm.
and then I do karmic core cutting just in case that they've got any energy going to anybody else. You should mean, so you're right, it just develops naturally. You fit it into a way you
Yeah,
work, isn't it? So there's no more
exactly.
questions, Lizzie. This has been my spiritual journey with Lizzie, and it's been a fascinating. I think I'll have to bring you back again to talk more about different subjects, not just cards, but it'd be great. So Lizzie, hang on, there's one more. So one quick question for the Oracle Tree. What are you drawn to as your next step of self-awareness?
So my current focus is actually on psychology and archetypes. That's what I'm working on at the moment.
Yeah,
So going deeper into Carl Jung's work, and understanding the connections between psychology and how the tarot, astrology, all of those kind of things all interconnect with
yeah,
the subconscious mind and the collective consciousness. So that's
yeah.
my next level that I'm going to is working on that.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop the questions there because it's been what, an hour now, an hour and something. I mean, it's only about 45 minutes long, but you get into a chat and it's flowed. It's been really good. So, Lizzie, Lizzie, thank you so much for coming on to my spiritual journey. This point so far, this is your time to tell the people who are watching on my live your social media, where they can find you, how they can book a reading with you, because I'm sure people are going to do that. So it's your time. Let them know what you're doing at the minute, how to find you.
Lovely. So I've actually put everything in an easy place. I've got a link tree in my description, which brings you to everything. So I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and I also have a blog as well. Everything is kind of slightly different depending on where you go. Oh, sorry, and Patreon. Patreon is a new thing that I've just launched, which is a really amazing tight-knit community where I'm going into more spiritual life coaching and support,
Oh,
working with like deities and those
fantastic.
kind of energies as well. So, but YouTube is probably one of my biggest babies that I've been working on in the past year. I do new moon, full moon readings, weekly readings, and pick a card readings and that kind of thing, as well as spiritual topics. So, I talk about spiritual awakening, chakras, things like that. So that's probably the best one. And then
Fantastic.
Facebook and Instagram is my daily readings that I do. But yeah, my link
So if
tree
you
has everything.
Linktree has everything you need to know. If you'd like to connect with Lizzie or have a reading from her, obviously think about the time difference because she's in Australia. This has been amazing. I've loved this, and obviously because it was a morning one, it's been great. Hopefully one day I'll get you back on to discuss more about different aspects, if you wouldn't mind, of your spiritual journey.
Oh,
I'd like to.
100%. I
Yeah,
could
it'd be
talk
great.
for days. So.
I know you can, in fact, and I love it. And I've learned something new today. Oh, before you go, you said you do writing. You write books. You're writing books.
I am in the process. So I've got a manuscript that I've sent off to an editor at the moment. So that's all in
Okay.
my Patreon. I've got a tier where I'm talking about updates with that as well. So, but yes, I am
So
a
yeah,
writer, and that's also one of my projects.
fantastic. So Lizzie's got a lot going on, and she has a lot of spiritual love for everybody. Lizzie, this has been your spiritual, my spiritual so far. Thank you so much. Love and blessings to you. Namaste.
Thank
Please
you.
keep in touch with me. You've been fantastic. Everybody's thoroughly
100%.
enjoyed it. And yeah, have a lovely evening. I hope I'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.